Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening in. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and hopefully many of yours as well. And that topic is performance management. And specifically, we're going to be talking about a type of performance management that puts employees first. And so today we're going to talk about the history of performance management a bit, some of the things that we've seen be most successful, and some ideas for how you might improve the process at your companies. To get started, I would love to introduce myself. I'm Jack Altman, and I am the founder and CEO of Lattice. We are a performance management platform that makes software for growing companies, and we believe in employee-centric performance management. We're about 2 years old. We're based in San Francisco, and we have over 300 customers today, including the likes of Birchbox, Cruise, Glossier, GitLab, Looker, Collective Health, New York Public Radio, and many others. We love working with our customers. We love learning from them. We love sharing learnings across our community. And one of the things we're really excited to talk about here with you all today is some of those learnings that we've had, some of the trends that we've seen, so that we can really all get better as a community. I really believe that performance management is a wave that is changing the way that work happens, the way that employees relate to their employers. And I think that it's on us to put great programs in place that empower employees, that help develop them, that make the most of their experiences at our companies. And so we're really excited to talk about all of this today. So the things we'll be focusing on are, number one, why do you need to transition from the old school pay-for-performance type of performance management to a much more employee-centric model where employee development is at the center? And then number two, we're going to actually talk about how to do that. How can you move your company towards this employee-first model? What are the practical steps that you can take? What are the ways that you can effectively change management from where you are today to where you'd like to bring your company? So one of the historic parts of the saga of performance management is Jack Welch. Jack Welch was known for a very particular type of performance management. He was a very effective leader. He brought his company through a lot of ups and downs and a lot of success. But what he did was a type of bell curve distribution where the bottom 10% would be coached out, sort of managed out of the company and terminated. The middle of the company would be given, sort of small, moderate raises that matched inflation. And the top of the company would be given promotions, raises that were more substantial, and things of this sort. And this sort of forced ranking performance management system, where there was an annual culling and promotion, was effective in certain ways, but it actually led to a lot of distrust. It led to a lot of anxiety. It led to a company that was not very human. It led to a way of thinking about your employees really as tools to accomplish your company's mission, instead of people who wanted to grow. And the problem that we faced is that people really hated this. So it turned out that 78% of US workers are dissatisfied with their performance review process. And the bulk of this has to do with this old school style of thinking. Laszlo Bock said that performance management as practiced by most organizations has become a rule-based bureaucratic process existing as an end in itself rather than actually shaping performance. Employees hate it, managers hate it, even HR departments hate it. These are strong words from somebody who led one of the most successful people operations teams at one of the most successful companies in the world. And the reason why people hated it so much is because it led to so much stress, so much anxiety at the end of the year, such an impersonal relationship. But companies held on to it because it was just the norm. And so what we saw over the past decade was companies letting go entirely of performance reviews. And so what many companies did in reaction to this sort of distrust of the performance management system was throw away the performance review system completely. And so instead, companies were replacing it with things like continuous feedback, no ratings, no requirements for reviews at all. However, Harvard Business Review looked at this, and they looked at all of these companies like Deloitte and Facebook and Accenture that were getting rid of performance reviews and seeing what actually happened. Turned out that at Facebook, after getting rid of performance ratings, 87% of employees said that they actually wanted to keep them and have them back. The reality is, even when companies get rid of performance evaluations, they said, ratings still exist. Employees can't see them. Ratings are done subjectively, behind the scenes, and without input from the people being evaluated. And so when the pendulum swung from Jack Welch world of the culling of the masses and very, very rigid performance reviews, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, when we saw continuous feedback whenever you wanted it, no structure, we saw that that didn't work either. And so the question now becomes, what is the right way to do it? How can you actually develop a performance management solution that puts employees first? This is what we're all about at Lattice, is finding that balance between the things that are great and the things that are not so great about the old way of doing performance management, and similarly bringing in the new tools from continuous feedback, more frequent development conversations, and most importantly, a cultural mindset difference. And that's what this is all about. So how do you actually do it? So the most important thing is to create a culture that's focused on employee development. So everything starts with culture. It starts with the way that you communicate to your employees. It starts with the way that you focus on this with your leadership team. And it starts with the way you train your managers to have these developmental conversations with their teams. What you're really looking for is how can you give employees the things that they need the most from performance management conversations to grow. And so thinking from a framework of growth, care, and impact, we've found are the things that make employees the most satisfied in their jobs, that drive the most employee engagement, and ultimately will drive the best performance. So when you think about growth, you want to think about giving your employees opportunities to learn new skills, to have pathways for career progress, to be surrounded by mentors that they can look up to, and to generally believe that working at your company is going to be good for their overall career growth. Performance management can be a great way to do this. Not only can you actually give great feedback that is constructive and helps them get better at their job, but you can also talk to them about what their goals are and how you can help them get there. And so thinking about growth as a central tenet of what you're trying to give to your employees through your employee-centric performance management system is really critical. The second element is care and showing employees that you really value their efforts, you value what they bring to work every day, and you value the fact that they're bringing their whole selves to work. We live in a connected world now, and there is no complete separation between personal life and professional life. And so your employees want to care about their work, and they want you to show them that you care about what they've done as well. And so this doesn't mean that you're always praising. In fact, quite the opposite. In most cases, caring about employees actually enables you to give more constructive feedback, which leads to more growth, which leads to better outcomes across the board. And in this way, finding trusting relationships where your employees know that you truly care about them is going to give you a whole virtuous cycle where employee development can be fostered. The last piece of the puzzle is impact, and you want to here provide the opportunity for employees to make an impact both day to day and on the company's mission. So people want to know that what they do matters. Not just that people care about it, not just that they're growing themselves, but that what they're actually doing matters to the world. It's like Steve Jobs said about making a dent in the universe. People find a lot of gratification from knowing that what they do helps their team, helps their company, and helps the world. And so as managers and leaders of your people operations organizations, you want to find ways to enable your employees to see the impact that they're having. Whether that's through showing them the impact they have on their team, their company, or the way that your company's mission makes the world a better place. This is the last piece that will make your employees engaged, happy, and focused on doing better at their work. So we talked quite a bit about this shift from company-centric performance management to employee-centric management. And I wanted to give a couple of concrete examples of what that actually looks like in practice. So a couple things to think about are, instead of just evaluating employees, you should instead focus on developing employees, motivating employees, and engaging employees so that they can grow their careers, that they can feel cared for, and that they can have a bigger impact. This isn't to say that you should never have evaluation conversations. Like we mentioned with Facebook, it's absolutely important for people to know where they stand, for people to see real feedback about their performance, but that's not the whole picture. you also need to incorporate chances for employees to be developed. And so one great thing that we've seen a lot of people do is separate out their performance review cycles into development reviews and evaluative reviews. And by doing this, you allow people to have the space to focus on feedback that is centered around development when it's the right time for that. And that's a really empowering thing for employees. Another example of doing employee-centric performance management is instead of doing feedback once a year, just because that's what's convenient for the company, is empowering employees to have the tools to share real-time feedback, to have check-ins on a weekly, monthly, and/or quarterly cadence, so that employees can get value before it's too late. The world moves really fast, and if I did something wrong in February, I shouldn't have to wait till December to know. And so giving your company the tools and the infrastructure to have real-time conversations is incredibly important towards driving an employee-centric performance management process. The last thing is that you want to make it something that employees value. And this at every step of the process will create so much more value for you. It'll make it easier to go through the change management that you want to, and it'll make your employees happier. So knowing that performance management is often something that employees dread, that they dislike, that is painful for them, and figuring out a way to give managers a lightweight process for providing feedback will make it so that your employees don't hate their performance reviews, but actually, in fact, value them and really appreciate the performance management process. Whether that's lightweight weekly check-ins, ongoing feedback, quarterly goal setting, or performance reviews, it can be really valuable for them to have this. And so for you to change your mindset from not only are we just mitigating the pain of performance reviews, but we're actually going to make it a goal of our process that employees say, this really made work better for me. This made my career better. This made my time at work better. This made me enjoy what I do every day more. That should really be your goal. So now we're going to talk a little bit about thinking about how you can actually structure one of these processes. So you want to build a process that makes employee development a year-round activity. So remember that in the old world, it was most common to have an end-of-year review that happened once every 12 months. And you can imagine how much was packed into that, how many things were forgotten, how much recency bias there was, and how infrequently employees were actually receiving feedback. What we recommend is a new way of thinking of employee development, where goals are set each quarter, real-time feedback and one-on-ones happen throughout the quarter, and developmental and compensation-based reviews happen either biannually or quarterly. And what this allows you to do is to basically spread out what was this one concentrated, unpleasant process into something that happens throughout the year where employees can find real value from it. We've seen with our customers that doing it this way leads to much better outcomes, happier employees, better performance results, and a more engaged process all around. So there are 4 elements like we mentioned. There's goal setting, there's one-on-ones, there's real-time feedback, and there's performance reviews. And now we want to spend a little bit of time talking about some best practices for each, so that as you configure your own performance management process at your company, you can figure out the order to roll these things out to your company, the way to introduce them, and the right structure for your company, because every company is a little bit different. The number one key with goal setting to get started is setting clear expectations. So in general, we recommend that you keep things pretty lightweight. Asking employees to set 2 to 4 goals per quarter is perfect. And as someone said, if you prioritize everything, you prioritize nothing. And so by prioritizing a small number of goals, this will define employees' focus and make sure that they know how they have impact at the company. The other thing that's really important is that managers and reports discuss these goals at the end of each quarter. So what you don't want is goals to go into a spreadsheet somewhere and sort of die on the vine. Instead, you want to make sure that at the end of the quarter, you're talking about these goals. Why were they met? Why were they not met? Was it okay that we missed them? Was it okay that we hit them? Did we set goals the right way? Should we do it differently next time? These conversations are where all the value is. And so making sure that you've got a structure in place where people don't just set goals, but they have the infrastructure to talk about them is really critical. The last point I wanted to make about goals was that you shouldn't tie goals directly to compensation. There are many reasons for this, and there are a lot of companies that have discussed this in a much more effective way than I can. But the problem with tying goals directly to compensation is it leads to muddled goal setting, and it causes undue stress around what should be a clear prioritization process. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't talk about goals when you're having development conversations or in your one-on-ones. But what it means is that employees shouldn't have the understanding that if they miss their goal, they're in big trouble, and that if they hit their goal, they're definitely going to get a big promotion. Goals can be set for all kinds of reasons. The world moves fast, and managers need the discretion to keep these things separate. So you should be empowering your managers to have the separation that they need between these things so that they can use goals effectively as the tool that they're supposed to be, which is establishing prioritization, showing impact, and having clear conversation points on a regular basis. The next thing we wanted to talk about was one-on-one meetings. So it's very important between the manager and direct report relationship that your teams are leveraging the manager one-on-one. So Ben Horowitz had a great quote about one-on-ones. He said that one-on-ones are the employees' meeting rather than the manager's meeting. This is the free-form meeting for all the pressing issues, brilliant ideas, and chronic frustrations that do not neatly fit into status reports, email, and other less personal and intimate mechanisms. I think this is a really great, succinct way to describe what a good one-on-one is all about. This isn't a time for managers to check up on their teams. This is not a status report. This is space that managers carve out for their employees to talk about whatever's on their mind. Maybe that's work, maybe it's personal issues, maybe it's something else. But great one-on-ones are such a critical management tool that giving your teams the encouragement, the space, and the infrastructure to have one-on-ones and to make sure that people are doing them on a regular basis is one of the best things that you can do for communication throughout your company. So real-time feedback has become a super popular and effective tool to add to your performance management repertoire. You want to be empowering employees to share feedback in real time so that people can celebrate wins publicly and note constructive criticism in the moment. So the thing that is most painful about the annual performance review is the cognitive bias that we get from thinking about the recent events that have happened. So if you don't log things as they're going on, it's so easy to forget what happened 1 month ago or 2 months ago or 7 months ago. And so having a place where you can log feedback in the moment, share it when it's impactful to people is such a valuable tool. The other thing is having recognition as a tool at your disposal to give people a place to share wins, to talk about what's gone great, and to give each other the recognition that makes people feel cared for at work. So having a feedback tool and a real-time mechanism where you build a culture of people sharing in the moment is so valuable. You think about a sports coach. You wouldn't wait until 3 days after the game to tell someone how they could have improved. A great sports coach tells their players in real time, you could have done this a little bit differently, lift your arm a little bit higher, and these sorts of things. And it's similar with management. There are certainly cases where there are things that you want to save, but in a lot of cases, telling people feedback in real time is the most impactful way to create an open, trusting relationship and to make people improve right when they need it. So review cycles are, of course, the crux of a performance management system. This is the time when everybody steps back and takes time to think about what really do I want to communicate to this person to help them grow or to evaluate their performance. And so, like I mentioned earlier, one of the most valuable things that you can do is separate out development reviews and compensation reviews. It's so tempting to muddle these two things together, and it's very easy for employees to get confused about what they're doing. So you as the HR team have an excellent opportunity here to separate out what these mean in the employee's mind and to focus people on what you want from them. So a developmental review, when you're doing these, you want to remember that these exist purely for the benefit of employees, and you want to remind everybody at your company of this. It's an opportunity for them to receive and give feedback with nothing on the line other than to be heard, be recognized, and get better. This is such a valuable time, and reminding people of that is very freeing. Development reviews are also an opportunity for employees to take a step back and reflect, think about how they want to improve themselves, and how what they're doing is getting closer to their own career goals. Take that in contrast to a compensation review. it is actually still important to have a review where people are being evaluated based on their performance and their work. The truth is, employees still want this. Like we saw at Facebook and at other companies, employees don't want to have no objective basis for how they're evaluated. It's actually very important to people, especially to top performers, that their great work is recognized and that the right things are being promoted and compensated. You want to make sure that you communicate to your employees that these reviews will be happening at the end of the year so that when people think about their raises and their promotions, they know the appropriate time to be talking about these things. So you do want this cycle to happen. You do want to make sure that people know there's a space for this. And it should be a positive thing. This should be not some scary, anxiety-provoking thing, because people should have gotten constructive, negative feedback throughout the year, so they're not worried about some hammer hanging over their head. Instead, this should be a time for them to talk about their growth, be recognized for their performance and for their accomplishments. So to summarize the takeaways, we've seen it's very important for companies to move from company-centric to employee-centric performance management. You want to be building a process that makes employee development something that happens not just once a year, but around the entire year. When it comes to employee goals, developmental reviews, manager one-on-ones, real-time feedback, you should view your performance management system as an opportunity for your employees to get better, to have space where they're cared for, where they grow, where they can see their impact, and where your managers can really be supported by the company to do their jobs as well. So that's our presentation. We want to thank you so much for listening to us. If you are interested in improving your own performance management solution, we'd love for you to check out Lattice and let us tell you more about what we offer. So we've got software that obviously will help you get through this stuff. We have resources, and we also have a community. You'll be able to see all this stuff on the page, and we'll be sending stuff out. But we are here to help, and we love talking about this stuff. So thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.